Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Stories. You know me, you know the voice, Dr. LL, Loralyn here, and every week we bring you all kinds of amazing guests who are walking the walk, right? Living that entrepreneurial dream or not so dream. There's a few little nightmares in the way, right? Or that small business ownership and on that path. But every week we learn something new from our guests. And today we've got the founder of playgroundequipment.com, Nicholas Breedlove. And we're going to get into everything from community to culture shakeups to get those kids away from their screens and out in the playgrounds to how we can go on and protect ourselves. Hello, Nicholas. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. All I'll say to that intro is nightmares are dreams too. Uh,
They are, that's true, right? It's how we use them and harness them. Well,
yes.
let's just dive right in there. So what do you care to share about your nightmares in business with respect to, oh, let's see, business betrayals, business hiccups, customers from hell? Where do you want to start?
I started when I was pretty young, and I as I scaled really quickly over the first probably 12 years we were doing business, we were doubling a lot until we probably hit about 35, 40 million. And it was there was a lot of with a lot of growth came a lot of unset expectations and didn't quite build the culture I needed. Um, Customer wise, you can go into trying to understand how to deal with a customer as a 21, 22-year-old. I had no idea what I was doing. I was, we got into the marketplace. We were selling commercial playground equipment and got into the market at the right time during the recession. Nobody else was really selling our equipment online. We've got a rather high ticket price. Our average sales over 9,000, and our average sales cycle starts, from quote to purchase is around 90 days, 95 days. So it could be a long time before you get paid, a long time before you close a quote, a long time. There's just a lot of room for errors in there. But when we were growing over the first probably 7 years, we had a certain employee. I got to learn the hard way, as a lot of us do. And that betrayal definitely happened to me with an internal, it was more than one, unfortunately. It was a group of people. And a lot of business owners don't like talking about that stuff because it's embarrassing. It takes a real big hit to your ego. And I'll admit, like my ego was hit for years. Um, we the employee he who shall not be named. Um, he had started up a bunch of shell companies. So our brands work where we sell to distributors on half of our companies sell to distributors of our private label brands. And he was setting up his own distributorships and basically selling equipment, funneling leads from our businesses into his, and then reselling it. So he would get paid as the manager of the team. He would also get paid as a salesperson. And he was violating trust for a lot of our employees, and it really hurt my culture. And his own ego and his own paranoia, he was recording thousands of hours of meetings that he was having because he would set people up, and it was a long play. So let's say he was having a meeting with our CEO or CFO. And he would get him on the record of saying, "Hey, if I were to set up a distributor and I really need you to push this one through and don't do a credit check." Okay, so, and that was a legitimate distributor. But then he would set his own distributorships up without a credit check because it was an urgent issue, right? So he had okay, they already said it was okay this one time. Why wouldn't it be okay now? Because he was setting the stage for what would be a multi-year lawsuit against him, which is what happened eventually. But you multiply that over multiple teams, throughout the organization, whether it's operations or sales, finance, all of it. And so, I get all these recordings, and I learn about how to store recordings in court and all sorts of fun things like that. But, it went really deep and it hurt me just because, like, I mean, we're selling playgrounds. We're not in the mob or anything, but I promise. But I had this, I had a really weird thing where if somebody put their phone on the table for a while, I was like, what are they trying to set me up with now? You know? And not only did my ego take a hit where I had an employee who's basically, in essence, stealing from me and all of my people, I also had this like thing in my head saying, I can't trust anybody anymore. And that was really the worst part of it was, trying to figure out, A, how do I rebuild trust in all of my employees? And B, my distributors, and C, myself with everybody else. Like, I can't trust anybody for a while. And it took me probably 2 years to get past it as like an individual, like just not being mad about it, being able to talk about it, um, and just, the growth that we needed to do organizationally just to get past that and move on.
Wow. So, as they say, there's a lot there to unpack, Nicholas. So let's break it down. First, although that was so many years ago, it sounds like it's still raw. I don't know that we really ever get over it. You said it took a couple of years before you could even trust or get out there. But do we really get over this level of hurt?
I don't know that you get over it for sure. I think that you figure out for me, I figured out, how did I allow this to happen? And what's really important right now for me, it's what are my failures in it and where am I to blame for what happened? And for me, at the time, I was letting trust just run rampant. I would assign somebody, I trust that they did it. I had way too many direct reports. It was the tale that's been said as old as time for entrepreneurs. When they have too many people reporting directly to them. You have no idea what's going on, and there was not enough structure. There was not enough checks and balances. And, for me, you're right. It's not about getting over it more as it was about making sure I had the right systems built around me so it didn't happen again. Um, and that everybody understood as much as they could understand and as much as they will understand how it happened. And, not necessarily blaming anybody for it, but just that we don't want to repeat it. And, it's not the type of organization I want to work at. And it's not the type of company that I want people to work at. I want them to feel like they are able to, be honest with me. And that's how it came to light after multiple years was an employee overheard while they were out drinking, and it took them a while to have the courage just to come to me to tell me, that, hey, this is happening. And then all of a sudden you start peeling it away and it's an onion, and it starts to make you cry.
Jeez. And that's just it, right? These things do happen. Unfortunately, they happen with great regularity, and I'd argue increasing regularity because everybody that I have on this show and all the other entrepreneurs that I talk to in my social networks and professional networks, everybody's got a story. And it isn't a dream, it is a nightmare. And despite whatever our ego, despite our best intentions, despite any and all of that, stuff still happens. I know I've written off a lot of bad debt. You're like, oh, yeah, yeah, I'll go in, I'll go in. Yeah, okay, Laura, we'll make the money, we'll get the loan, we'll do this, we'll do that. Then they just ghost you, and you're like, really? We worked really hard at that and put aside all this other stuff. And because we're a service company, so it's one on one. So if you need the body, that's it, right? There's only so many hours to provide the service, and then you can't do other things. And then, oh, my favorite, the brain pick. Oh, Loralyn, we're really interested in your company. Let's do this. Let's be partners. Oh, you know what? We might even be investors and help you take it to the next level. And then you go on tour with them, do things, spend 30 days, very, very intense discussions daily. And then at the end of it, you say, all right, like, let's go, let's sign all the agreements. No, we've decided to move on our own path. And can you clarify that? Like your own path with a different company, doing a different thing? No, no, doing the same thing that you do, but doing it better. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sounds like you're talking from experience.
Yes, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm just saying, so this is the kind of stuff that happens. So let's flip that around, right? Because this is one of the things that defines us as entrepreneurs. We see a problem and we go after it, right? Full on, even to the detriment of our own health, our own finances. What do you mean it's unsafe or unwise to mortgage our homes? What do you mean it's unsafe or unwise to tap our 401k? Advice be damned. I am going forward. I am one with my purpose. Here we go, right? And we go anyway. But this is the thing, we fail and we learn. And either we follow that Chinese proverb where we fall down 7 times and get up 8, because as entrepreneurs, we are resilient. We fight through the betrayals, we fight through the nonsense, and we find a way to solve that damn problem and be aligned with our purpose no matter what, or we don't, right? We go back to a job. So we got this.
Oh, I got it. I'm not going back to a job. I've got it. I've
So
got it.
and there you go. And now, and you've learned, this is the whole part, right? Learning and growing, having that lifetime of curiosity where you think, and what role did I play in all of this? Because we are accountable, right? If not only to ourselves, but certainly to our teams. And we
Yeah.
learn. So talk to us about how you modified your culture, because that whole trust fall thing, right? That's nonsense. That's not done anymore. How did you rebuild trust?
I think curiosity is a good word. I was on a trip to South America last about 3 weeks ago with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and it was one of the things that I kind of fail at myself over the last couple of months. I've just been on my own new stressor from the business, but curiosity itself is definitely lacking. But either way, how did I get past the betrayal? The betrayal for me, how did I build from that? It's, I wasn't a huge, I was fresh out of college when I started this stuff. I didn't think core values meant anything, and every company I'd ever worked with, core values didn't mean anything. They were just written on a wall, and you didn't actually think about them, you didn't live them, they didn't understand them. And I think for our first two renditions after that was probably the first thing I did after that. After, we terminated everyone that was involved. We had maybe one person left on that business unit out of six. So five people were terminated for their involvement, direct or indirect, or just knowing and not saying. And the core values, we started off with nine, then went to six, and now we're at four solid values that, I feel like encompass what we need as an organization right now. And it's all about right now, and it's about the next 2 years. It's not about the next 10 years. It's not about aspirational. They're not aspirational by any means. They're just about, for me, it's about how we live every day. And, just making sure that we reinforce them. We reinforce them with our daily huddles. Every team has a huddle. A huddle is maybe 5 minutes. We have a manager huddle once a day. They have team huddles once a day. We have core value events at least once a month. And, we incorporate our core values pretty much in every aspect of what we do. I think the HR is working on a cookbook right now. And I'm sure there's going to be core values somehow or another slipped in there. He's really good at it. And I think the better we've gotten over the last probably 3 years has been with really great a team. I have a core value. Um, I don't know what they call themselves, Core Value Club or something, but they help enforce it throughout the company. And those I have a self-designated lead. He's our HR manager or senior manager, and him with four other people, they help promote it throughout the company. And without that, I think it would be very difficult for me individually to take that on. I'd never be able to handle it. So that was probably the second thing that I learned was making sure that I had a team in place to really fundamentally push it out there regularly. Otherwise, it's just going to die on a piece of paper, on a wall. It doesn't mean anything. And that's where I think a lot of people fail with it is not reinforcing it in life. Not just an email, not just a signature, but they're out there giving core value bucks away. They're giving out prizes. They're constantly shouting people out. Other managers are shouting people out. We choose, I think it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's a core value. Tuesday, Thursday, we allow like a personal win. on all shout outs. You know, and it's just about making that right culture that I want and most people want to be at, you know, and we've had people that have worked for me for 18 years and we've got people that work for me for a day. And, you know, so, you know, we're not the, I know that when I think of, you know, I used to think, God, it's a terrible place to work at. You know, I allowed this stuff to happen. But then I'm like, I still have people that have been here for 10 plus years, 15 years, 18 years. He finally retired. Um, so, you know, I think we're doing some things right, finally. I think another part for my company and just in general for any company, I feel like you know, I is knowing what the heck you're doing and why you're doing it, right? And I go on this trip once a summer to Mexico, Missouri. It's this little bitty town west of St. Louis, and I got a bunch of people out there I know in Colombia. And but in Mexico is I meet a bunch of CEOs, and one of the first questions they asked me the first trip was, why would we do business with you? And at the time, I was like, you know, because I've got cheaper prices or I have this or, you know, the low level, non really elementary level thought process, at least in my head. Like now, when I look back on it, it's like, that's not why. For me, my why has developed entirely from there. And it's more like, I think about my three customers. I think about the kids that we serve because we sell playgrounds. So my job is to serve the children by giving them a safe place to build confidence through risk taking, right? So a kid goes out, climbs up on a playground, they're building confidence by taking risks. I'm giving them that space, right? One way or the other. I'm providing them a place where they think they can do that. If I fail, that means they got injured, something happened, that's a failure. Second group of people that I think about, we serve, the why, is the operators and owners of all those playgrounds, which is the parks, the schools, the cities. And what they're trying to do is promote, it's where society starts. You know, it's where you meet your neighbors, it's where kids meet each other's names, it's where that foundation of community begins. So we get to be a part of that and serve where community begins. And that's what we help community, you know, all those institutions create is a place where community begins. And the third reason why is for me, it's our employees and our distributors. So we have about 225 small business owners across the United States. Not all of them are small. We have a few that are over probably 20 million. But you know, it's to give them a place to that they're proud of and that they can, you know, make a living. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, that that's up to them what they want to do with that living. You know, it's not my decisions on their lives, but just giving them a place to be able to live a better life for my employees and all those distributor partners. So that's my why. And I think the more I understood about why, the more I understood my BHAG, you know, my vision overall and my purpose. I
Big,
feel
hairy,
like,
audacious goal for those that don't know the Harvard BHAG. Yes.
yeah, I'm glad you said audacious. I usually say the other word. So, you know, I think that the more I was really in tuned with why I do it, and you know, was able to vocalize that to every employee, and you know, once we scaled from 10 to 50 to 100 to 200 employees, it's really tough to understand who I'm even talking to anymore sometimes because I still have my relationships with my core, you know, once we got to about 50. And then it started to really, um, it started being very difficult to have that same relationship. You know, when we started back then, it was a lot easier to maintain that one-on-one relationship. But once you got past that certain number, and you know, the inevitability was to scale. Unfortunately, we had to have warehouse space. Warehouse space means lots of workers. We have, you know, multiple warehouses across the United States, and each of them are served by, you know, 10 to 20 employees. It just adds up really quickly.
Okay. So there's a thousand things I want to ask you. So, uh, from the top, first of all, what are your four corporate values? Because you talked about the four but didn't share them.
Absolutely. So ours are for our pursuit of wow. committing as owners, living a growth mindset, and building a positive community. And for those, for me, it's about, pursuit of wow. It's that amazing expectation that, it's that Chick-fil-A moment. It's you want to make sure that we're always presenting that our best person forward, and that
Mhm.
includes internally and externally. Committing as an owner, I really hate people blaming and the culture of blame or not accepting and just moving on. And, for me, it's just, it's out there all the time. And, making sure that we're thinking about it is just super important. And the growth mindset for me, it's we're small enough that are still able to pivot and we can learn, we can pivot, we can move, and that's where it gets called out a lot. Even like last week we had an issue with customs and containers. So I think we had 20 plus containers held up by customs at Savannah port. And somebody on the ops team, not somebody, but Tabitha, she was able to just work in a different way, and she got all of them released within 24 hours. But it's that growth mindset. It got her there. And then build a positive community. It's impossible to be happy all the time, but if you've got to be able to not be mad at the right things, and usually it's yourself and not everybody around you. So, that's our core values.
Excellent. Second question. Do you think you're too hard on yourself and that
Oh,
entrepreneurs in general are too hard on ourselves?
absolutely.
I heard the sigh, so I'm thinking, yeah.
No, I mean, absolutely. I think that it's one of the biggest struggles that we as entrepreneurs have is understanding, the difference between when does it end? When does the pain of the disappointment and, what are we really responsible for? How much? And who are we really responsible for? How much? Am I really responsible for every person? No. Am I responsible for every mistake? No. But do I have to accept it, every mistake for what they are? Absolutely. Can I
Yes.
do that in a way where I don't drag myself into some dark pit? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's hard to do though, because there
Yeah.
are
Oh,
days, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
I had that recently. It's like, oh, delivering for a client should have been so easy with all these codependencies on all these other people to do things, and we didn't quite get it done in the timely way that we wanted. Now the client moved a lot of goalposts, but at the end of the day, you got to try to figure it out. And so I just feel sick, that we didn't quite nail it. And what do you do, right? And as a small business, we're small. You're a big small business and we're a small business, and it still it makes a difference, right? Every one of those
It
relationships
does.
and those fails, they're just like failures. I mean, you're like, "Oh,
They hurt. They
they
hurt
do,
bad.
they do." And then, and again, that whole piece that you said in there, you talked about one of the things you want to do to help the community is build playgrounds that are safe. And so I'm looking at you, and for those of you that don't have the visual experience, Nicholas looks younger than I do, and I might say that maybe he's late millennial, maybe early Gen X, but as a Gen X, I recall going to the playgrounds, right? We had gravel, broken glass bottles everywhere. You shot down these stainless steel slides where you burnt
Yeah.
your ass cheeks off,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Get to the
yeah.
bottom, crash into the gravel and glass, dig it out of your knees, right? Just put a little spit on it and call it done and get up and do it again, right? So playgrounds have come a long way.
Maybe we'll get back there one day.
It made
But
us tough,
it
right?
did, and I don't think there was anything wrong with that. There's a lot of stuff where, they made it too safe for a while. And I think that right now there's like a design phase where it's people that are, probably in their 40s to 60s that are designing playgrounds instead of, talking to kids. They're doing what the cities want. It's pieces to look at that look pretty. Stainless glass or glass. They're incorporating glass onto playgrounds, and it's more about a tower that's a statement piece because it helps the community in an imagery purpose rather than functionally. Like as a parent, and I have three kids. If one of my kids got stuck at the top of a 30-foot tower, I would not be happy. And I would be really irritated. And that's happened before. And I have like an anxiety of being in small places, which is silly because I used to install playgrounds too. That was one of the first things I did when I started this company. But I think it was all those days hanging upside down in tube slides. It's given me a little bit of a, paranoia about being confined like that. Um, so, but I think that there's a push towards that type of stuff in right now. But like you said, the stainless steel slides and that stuff. I mean, yeah, I mean they don't really even like using steel in playgrounds anymore. It's plastic, plastic, plastic. So um,
Yeah.
a lot of push towards safety, and that's kind of I lean towards the safety and but not making it safe necessarily and eliminating risk. I don't think that's where it's at. I think it's more just about how can we make sure that if something's broke, people fix it. There's still 400,000 hospital visits every year from playgrounds.
Wow.
You know,
Still today.
yeah,
In the
and those are.
non-steel slide era and the non-spinning merry-go-round thing that you just catapulted people,
But you have
right?
to also say, okay, are those helicopter parents, is that because they, scuffed their knee? Or is that because, and it's also government data. No offense to anybody. I don't necessarily trust any data from anybody, even my own team sometimes, let alone the government. And if you put an exact amount of 400,000, that's a lot. I don't know. Uh,
Are there that many kids even playing outside anymore? Everybody's hooked to their freaking
that
screen.
That's a great question, and 400,000 and you think about the amount of playgrounds in the United States, there's hundreds of thousands, but how many schools and how many kids?
Hmm.
It's possible. Fortunately, it's not, with broken limbs. Most of it is a lack of surfacing, a lack of maintenance. There's a lot of general things that people can do to prevent those types of accidents from happening, and usually they end up learning in a rather expensive lawsuit, unfortunately.
Oof. Here we go, right? So, as we're wrapping up our show, what advice do you have for other entrepreneurs? Because you've done the highs, the lows, the betrayals, the trust, the build the team, the grow the business, seven, eight, more figures, lots and lots of folks. What do you tell us, Nicholas? What should we all be inspired by or curious about?
I think that for me, I think I find the most hope nowadays when I surround myself with other business owners. Don't necessarily have to be within the same class of revenue. But like that trip I just took down to South America, I take that trip almost every year, not to South America, but to a different place. And I'm with a bunch of CEOs, and you know, if you surround yourself with those people, the shared experiences that we have, even at different revenue amounts, I think that you are able to just learn so much and also be open and be a human being again, because it's so difficult as you grow a business to, there's no understanding of what another person working at a regular job goes through. It's just a disconnect in your life, in my opinion. And so having those relationships, I think, is really helped me as a person, and I think it would help pretty much anybody that's an entrepreneur because it's something that there's a big market for it, right? There's a huge market for coaching. There's a huge market for groups and events. It's just making sure it's intimate enough where you can actually get something out of it. That's the dilemma out there in the world, in my opinion.
And that's just it. And that's why I really do love our podcast. A lot of our listeners, they're anonymous, but we are growing week over week, reaching a bigger and bigger community. I do get some private DMs here and there, or other guests that come on and they say, yeah, I was listening to your podcast and it's helped me. And can I be on it? So we get some of that. And so I'm grateful for that. We're all in it to make a living, align with our purpose, and just find a way to leave the world maybe a little less of a dumpster fire than it is, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is the bar is low, right?
That's why I started. I just needed to be an inch better than my competitor.
Right.
The bar is low.
That's just it. So, how and where can people find you, Nicholas?
They can find me on LinkedIn. It's Nicholas Breedlove. You can search for me. I'll be there. And I'm usually there, and I'm available by email at CEO@playgrounds.com. And other than that, reach out whenever, and I'll be happy to answer any questions they might have, even if they're entrepreneur or whatever it is. I've been through a lot of stuff.
And I'm so grateful for you sharing that because that is really the goal of our show and the goal of what we do at Steeris. We do our small biz glow up, right? To get seen and get paid because invisible brands don't make money. And that's the problem. And if we don't tell each other what the real story is, and it's not yo, 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 bros and Lambos posted one video, hashtag viral, right? That's not how it goes.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not how it goes.
No. Last question. If we peeked into your closet, because this is what we do, and there's a pair of footwear, shoes, boots, flip-flops, something, or maybe some signature top or element, accessory that defines you, Nicholas Breedlove, right? Playground equipment. What are we looking at?
Now, contrary to the look that you're seeing, which is kind of like a urban Western wear, um, I have I've got hundreds of shoes, unfortunately, from dozens of brands. A lot of them are, I have everything from rhinestone shoes to suede boots and leather, crocodile leather, a lot of crocodile, a lot of leather, a lot of snake. Um, so I'm kind of all over that, and my clothing collection is also all over the place. So, I'd say if I'm in a business meeting, you could easily see me in, I'm not sure, brands. There's a Pline is a brand. I wear a lot of that. I wear a lot of different brands. One of my cousins is a cobbler. She makes shoes. But my dad came from the clothing industry. So I have a deep affection towards clothes and color, clothing in general. So I just love clothes. And so I have literally everything you can imagine.
Ooh, I love it. As a glitter girl, and nearly 300 guests later, you were my first glitter guy. Yes,
Uh,
I knew we'd be connected, right? So there's always
I,
some connection.
I need to trim up my beard here, but I can be presentable, I promise.
Well, with that, Nicholas Breedlove, Playground Equipment. You can find him CEO at playgrounds.com. Thank you so much for making our playgrounds safer, right? Just making all those little Gen Z and Alpha kids just wimpier. We thank you for that and safer. That's
You're
a good
welcome.
part. And just thank you for being you and being honest and being a part of our show today.
Thank you.